Okay, The Berry Pickers is a novel that gives us a really layered look at childhood, identity, memory, and trauma. And these early chapters bring us into the lives of a Mi'kmaq family whose young daughter disappears while they're working as berry pickers in Maine, and into the life of a girl who seems to have grown up in her place. So we'll start looking at how family systems respond to rupture and what happens to children caught in silence and disconnection. So the family is seasonal First Person Nations labor from Nova Scotia in Canada, and the chapters alternate perspectives, giving us insights into both Ruthie's family and the life of a girl growing up with another family who may or may not be Ruthie. So these parallel narratives allows us to examine identity confusion, cultural dislocation, and the psychological experience of separation. So the first 30 pages or so do a lot of quiet emotional work. Ruthie disappears, and we watch her family break apart in small and large ways. And at the same time, we meet a young girl who feels out of place in her own life. Her memories are hazy and something doesn't quite fit. It's subtle, but the sense of being lost, literally and psychologically, is already taking shape. And the emotional tone is heavy with silence, which is important to think about in terms of both trauma and identity. Let's just take a moment here and pause and remember that Ruthie is only 4 when she disappears, and that's a really critical age for forming secure attachments. So her absence doesn't just affect her, it tears into her brother Joe's development too. So we start to see the first signs of trauma responses. Guilt, shame, hypervigilance. And from a theoretical lens, this is where Bowlby's attachment theory becomes useful, thinking about what happens when the secure base is ripped away. And also worth noting, children often don't remember traumatic events directly, but their nervous systems do. Okay, so Joe's response to Ruthie's disappearance is deeply emotional and totally unsupported. So no one's talking to him about what's happened, and his parents are consumed with their own pain, and the entire family essentially goes quiet. So silence becomes the strategy, and that gives us an opening to look at this through family systems theory, especially Bowen's idea around emotional cutoff and the pressure that lands on siblings when the family doesn't process grief openly. Okay, meanwhile, in the background, we're also starting to hear from the girl being raised in the White family. She doesn't know who she really is, and no one seems willing to tell her the full story. There are racial clues, things about her appearance and background that don't add up, but instead of answers, she gets evasion. And from a developmental lens, right, this is a textbook case of Erickson's identity versus role confusion, basically playing out under the conditions of secrecy and shame. So it's also a story about cultural dislocation, being raised outside of one's community and denied access to one's heritage. Okay, so both narrators are grappling with fragmented memory. Joe doesn't have full recollections, but he's haunted by sounds, smells, and the feeling of that day. And the girl being raised by the White family has similar experiences. There's an unease that she can't explain. So, this is where we bring in ideas from trauma studies, like Bessel van der Kolk's idea that the body keeps the score. So trauma often shows up somatically, right? Not linguistically. So these characters are already showing us that. Counselors, particularly and therapists, particularly in school or mental health contexts, it's essential to recognize how early trauma may not be fully accessible through coherent storytelling. So, clients may speak in fragments, behaviors, or even silence. And this text reminds us to attend to what is not said as much as what is. So, cultural competency is also key. Understanding the unique dynamics of Indigenous trauma and forced assimilation is coming through with this book.